The Conscious Lovers by Richard Steele. Act I Sinai. Sir John Bevil's house. They may be false who languish and complain, but they who part with money never feign. Scene Roman 2, Bevil Jr.'s lodgings. All his disquiets by my own I prove, the greatest grief's perplexity in love. Illud genus narrationis, quod in personis positum est, debit habas sermones festivitatem, animorum dissimilitudinem, gravitatem, lenitatem, spem, metum, suspicionem, desiderium, dissimulationem, misericordiam, rerum varietates, facini commutationem, inspiratum incommodum, subitem letitiam, jucundum exitum rerum. 11. Epilogue by Mr. Wellstead. Intended to be spoken by Indiana. Our author, whom entreaties cannot move, spite of the dear coquetry that you love, swears he'll not frustrate, so he plainly means, by a loose epilogue, his decent scenes. Is it not, sirs, hard fate I meet today, to keep me rigid still beyond the play? And yet I'm saved a world of pains that way. I now can look, I now can move at ease, nor need I torture these poor limbs to please, nor with the hand or foot attempt surprise, nor rest my features, nor fatigue my eyes, bless me? What freakish gambols have I played? What motions tried and wanton looks betrayed? Out of pure kindness all, to overrule the threatened hiss and screen some scribbling fool. With more respect I'm entertained tonight, our author thinks I can with ease delight. My artless looks while modest graces arm, he says, I need but to appear and charm. A wife so formed, by these examples bred, pause joy and gladness round the marriage bed, soft sauce of comfort, kind relief from care, and 'tis her least perfection to be fair. The nymph with Indiana's worth who vies, a nation will behold with Bevil's eyes. The Conscious Lovers, imprint this ebook, is the product of many hours of hard work by volunteers for standard ebooks, and builds on the hard work of other literature lovers made possible by the public domain. This particular ebook is based on a transcription from Project Gutenberg and on digital scans from the Internet Archive. The source text and artwork in this ebook are believed to be in the United States public domain. That is, they are believed to be free of copyright restrictions in the United States. They may still be copyrighted in other countries, so users located outside of the United States must check their local laws before using this ebook. The creators of, and contributors to, this ebook dedicate their contributions to the worldwide public domain via the terms in the CC 01.0 Universal Public Domain Dedication. For full license information, see the uncopyright at the end of this ebook. Standard eBooks is a volunteer-driven project that produces ebook editions of public domain literature using modern typography, technology, and editorial standards, and distributes them free of cost. You can download this and other ebooks carefully produced for true book lovers at Standard Books.org. The preface one this comedy has been received with universal acceptance, for it was in every part excellently performed, and there needs no other applause of the actors, but that they excelled according to the dignity and difficulty of the character they represented. But this great favor done to the work in acting renders the expectation still the greater from the author, to keep up the spirit in the representation of the closet, or any other circumstance of the reader, whether alone or in company, to which I can only say that it must be remembered, a play is to be seen, and is made to be represented with the advantage of action, nor can appear but with half the spirit without it. For the greatest effect of a play in reading is to excite the reader to go to see it, and when he does so, it is then a play has the effect of example and precept. The chief design of this was to be an innocent performance, and the audience have abundantly shown how ready they are to support what is visibly intended that way. Nor do I make any difficulty to acknowledge that the whole was writ for the sake of the scene of the fourth act, wherein Mr. Bevil evades the quarrel with his friend, and to hope it may have some effect upon the Goths and Vandals that frequent the theatres, or a more polite audience may supply their absence. But this incident, and the case of the father and daughter, are esteemed by some people no subjects of comedy. But I cannot be of their mind, for anything that has its foundation in happiness and success must be allowed to be the object of comedy. And sure it must be an improvement of it to introduce a joy too exquisite for laughter, that can have no spring but in delight, which is the case of this young lady. I must, therefore, contend that the tears which were shed on that occasion flowed from reason and good sense, and that men ought not to be laughed at for weeping, till we are come to a more clear notion of what is to be imputed to the hardness of the head and the softness of the heart. And I think it was very politely said of Mr. Wilkes, to one who told him there was a General 3 weeping for Indiana, I'll warrant he'll fight ne'er the worse for that. To be apt to give way to the impressions of humanity is the excellence of a right disposition and the natural working of a well-turned spirit. But as I have suffered by critics who have got no farther than to inquire whether they ought to be pleased or not, for I would willingly find them proper a matter for their employment, and revive here a song which was omitted for want of a performer, and designed for the entertainment of Indiana. Signor Carbonelli, 5 instead of it, played 6 on the fiddle, and it is for one of a singer that such advantageous things are said of an instrument which were designed for a voice. The song is the distress of a lovesick maid, and may be a fit entertainment for some small critics 7 to examine whether the passion is just or the distress male or female. I from place to place fall on I go, with downcast eyes a silent shade, forbidden to declare my woe, to speak till spoken to, afraid. Roman 2 my inward pangs, my secret grief, my soft consenting looks betray. He loves, but gives me no relief, why speaks not he who may? It remains to say a word concerning Terence, and I am extremely surprised to find what Mr. Sibba told me prove a truth. 8 that what I valued myself so much upon, the translation of him 9, should be imputed to me as a reproach. Mr. Sibba's zeal for the work, his care and application in instructing the actors and altering the disposition of the scenes, when I was, through sickness, unable to cultivate such things myself, has been a very obliging favor and friendship to me. For this reason, I was very hardly persuaded 10 to throw away Terence's celebrated funeral, and take only the bare authority of the young man's character, and how I have worked it into an Englishman, and made use of the same circumstances of discovering a daughter when we least hoped for one, is humbly submitted to the learned reader. Prologue by Mr. Welsted. 12 spoken by Mr. Wilkes. To win your hearts and to secure your praise, the comic writers strive by various ways. By subtle stratagems they act their game, and leave untried no avenue to fame. One writes the spouse a beating from his wife, and says each stroke was copied from the life. Some fix all wit and humor in grimace, and make a livelihood of Pinky's 13 face. Here, one gay show and costly habits tries, confiding to the judgment of your eyes. Another smuts his scene, a cunning shaver, sure of the rakes and of the wench's favor. Oft have these arts prevailed, and one may guess, if practiced o'er again, would find success. But the bold sage, the poet of tonight, by new and desperate rules resolved to write, fain would he give more just applauses rise, and please by wit that scorns the aids of vice. The praise he seeks from worthier motives springs, such praise as praise to those that give it brings. Your aid most humbly sought then, Britons lend, and liberal mirth like liberal men defend. No more let ribaldry, with license writ, usurp the name of eloquence or wit. No more let lawless farce uncensured go, the lewd dull gleanings of a Smithfield show. 1 For 'tis yours, with breeding to refine the age, to chasten wit, and moralize the stage. Ye modest, wise and good, ye fair, ye brave, tonight the champion of your virtues save. Redeem from long contempt the comic name, and judge politely for your country's fame. The Conscious Lovers by Richard Steele. Uncopyright may you do good and not evil. May you find forgiveness for yourself and forgive others. May you share freely, never taking more than you give. Copyright pages exist to tell you that you can't do something. Unlike them, this uncopyright page exists to tell you that the writing and artwork in this ebook are believed to be in the United States public domain. That is, they are believed to be free of copyright restrictions in the United States. The United States public domain represents our collective cultural heritage, and items in it are free for anyone in the United States to do almost anything at all with, without having to get permission. Copyright laws are different all over the world, and the source text or artwork in this ebook may still be copyrighted in other countries. If you're not located in the United States, you must check your local laws before using this ebook. Standard ebooks makes no representations regarding the copyright status of the source text or artwork in this ebook in any country other than the United States. Non-authorship activities performed on items that are in the public domain, so-called sweat of the brow, work, don't create a new copyright. That means that nobody can claim a new copyright on an item that is in the public domain for, among other things, work like digitization, mock-up, or typography. Regardless, the contributors to this ebook release their contributions under the terms in the CC 01.0 Universal Public Domain dedication, thus dedicating to the worldwide public domain all of the work they've done on this ebook, including but not limited to metadata, the title page, imprint, colophon, this uncopyright, and any changes or enhancements to, or markup on, the original text and artwork. This dedication doesn't change the copyright status of the source text or artwork. We make this dedication in the interest of enriching our global cultural heritage, to promote free and libre culture around the world, and to give back to the unrestricted culture that has given all of us so much. Table of Contents Landmarks, Act Roman 2 Scene I, Bevel J.R. S. Lodgings. To hope for perfect happiness is vain, and love has ever its allays of pain. Scene Roman 2, Indiana's Lodgings. As conscious honor all his actions steers, so conscious innocence dispels my fears. Act III 28 Scene I, Sealand's House. Truth is too simple, of all art bereaved, since the world will, why let it be deceived. Act Roman 4 Scene I, Bevel J.R. S. Lodgings. Point 31, Sir. I hope it is consistent with the laws a woman ought to impose upon herself, to acknowledge that your manner of declining a treaty of marriage in our family, and desiring the refusal may come from me, has something more engaging in it than the courtship of him who, I fear, will fall to my lot. Except your friend exerts himself for our common safety and happiness. I have reasons for desiring Mr. Myrtle may not know of this letter till hereafter, and am your most obliged humble servant, Lucinda Sealand. I won't, upon second thoughts, hide anything from you, but my reason for concealing this is, that Mr. Myrtle has a jealousy in his temper which gives me some terrors, but my esteem for him inclines me to hope that only an ill effect which sometimes accompanies a tender love, and what may be cured by a careful and unblameable conduct. Sir, you have used me basely in corresponding and carrying on a treaty where you told me you were indifferent. I have changed my sod since I saw you, which advertisement I thought proper to send you against the next meeting between you and the injured Charles Myrtle. Betrayed by honor, and compelled by shame, they has it being, to preserve a name, nor dare inquire into the dread mistake, till plunged in sad eternity they wake. Scene Roman 2, St. James's Park. And while abroad so prodigal the dolt is, poor spouse at home as ragged as a colt is. Scene Roman 3, Bevel J.R. S. Lodgings. The next delight to transport with the fair is to relieve her in her hours of care. Act V Scene I, Sealand's House. Scene Roman 2, Charing Cross. Scene Roman 3, Indiana's House. Whate'er the generous mind itself denies, the secret care of Providence supplies. Colophon, the Conscious Lovers, was published in 1722 by Richard Steele. This ebook was produced for Standard eBooks by B. Timothy Keith, and is based on a transcription produced in 2017 by Claire Graham and Mark DeHoog for Project Gutenberg, and on digital scans from the Internet Archive. The cover page is adapted from the Declaration of Love, a painting completed in 1724 by Jean-Francois de Troyes. The cover and title pages feature the League Spartan and Sots Mill Gaudy typefaces created in 2014 and 2009 by the League of Movable Type. This edition was released on September 3, 2025, 5:19 p.m., and is based on revision F097A5C. The first edition of this ebook was released on August 11, 2022, 8:31 p.m. You can check for updates to this ebook, view its revision history, or download it for different e-reading systems at standardbooksorg/ebooks/richardsteele/The Conscious Lovers. The volunteer-driven Standard eBooks project relies on readers like you to submit typos, corrections, and other improvements. Anyone can contribute at standardbooksorg. To the King, may it please your Majesty, after having aspired to the highest and most laudable ambition, that of following the cause of liberty, I should not have humbly petitioned your Majesty for a direction of the theatre, had I not believed success in that province and happiness much to be wished by an honest man, and highly conducing to the prosperity of the Commonwealth. It is in this view I lay before your Majesty a comedy which the audience, in justice to themselves, has supported and encouraged, and is the prelude of what, by your Majesty's influence and favour, may be attempted in future representations. The imperial mantle, the royal vestment, and the shining diadem are what strike ordinary minds, but your Majesty's native goodness, your passion for justice, and her constant assessa mercy, is what continually surrounds you in the view of intelligent spirits, and gives hope to the suppliant, who sees he has more than succeeded in giving your Majesty an opportunity of doing good. Our King is above the greatness of royalty, and every act of his will which makes another man happy has 10 times more charms in it than one that makes himself appear raised above the condition of others. But even this carries unhappiness with it. for calm dominion, equal grandeur, and familiar greatness do not easily affect the imagination of the vulgar, who cannot see power but in terror. And as fear moves mean spirits, and love prompts great ones to obey, the insinuations of malcontents are directed accordingly, and the unhappy people are ensnared, from want of reflection, into disrespectful ideas of their gracious and amiable sovereign, and then only begin to apprehend the greatness of their master when they have incurred his displeasure. As your majesty was invited to the throne of a willing people, for their own sakes, and has ever enjoyed it with contempt of the ostentation of it, we beseech you to protect us, who revere your title as we love your person. 'Tis to be a savage to be a rebel, and they who have fallen from you have not so much forfeited their allegiance as lost their humanity. And therefore, if it were only to preserve myself from the imputation of being amongst the insensible and abandoned, I would beg permission in the most public manner possible to profess myself, with the utmost sincerity and zeal, sire, your majesty's most devoted subject and servant, Richard Steele, Dramatis Personae Sir John Bevel, Mr. Sealand, Bevel J.R. in love with Indiana, Myrtle in love with Lucinda, Simberton a coxcomb, Humphrey an old servant to Sir John, Tom servant to Bevel J.R., Daniel a country boy servant to Indiana, Mrs. Sealand second wife to Sealand, Isabella, sister to Sealand, Indiana, Sealand's daughter by his first wife, Lucinda, Sealand's daughter by his second wife, Philly's maid to Lucinda. Scene London. In notes the original MS of this preface is among the papers at Blenheim, where there are also some rough notes for preface, e.g. The fourth act was the business of the play. The case of dueling, I have fought, nor shall I ever fight again. Addison told me I had a faculty of drawing tears. Be that as it will, I shall endeavor to do what I can to promote noble things, which I will do as well as I can. Write the stupid and diabolical custom of dueling, MS. Erased, write the Hon. Brigadier General Charles Churchill, who lived with Mrs. Oldfield after Mainwaring's death, Egerton's Memoirs of Mrs. Anne Oldfield, 1731, pp. 67, 121. Write to inquire what should not which does please. MS. Wright Carbonelli, a violinist who had then not long been in England, had a benefit in 1722 at Drury Lane Theatre. He published 12 solos, dedicated to the Duke of Rutland. Afterwards he became a wine merchant. Wright played admirably well. MS. Wright some great critics. MS. Wright wags in the newspapers of the day pointed out that these words might be read as meaning that Steele was surprised at finding to be true anything that Sibba said. Write the imitation of Pamphilus. MS. Write by him. MS. Write the kind of narrative which is presented on the stage ought to be marked by gaiety of dialogue, diversity of character, seriousness, tenderness, hope, fear, suspicion, desire, pity, variety of events, changes of fortune, unexpected disaster, sudden joy, and a happy ending. Wright Leonard Wellsted, a protégé of Steele's, wrote also the epilogue. He was a clerk in the office of one of the secretaries of state and wrote a play and various poems, some of which were addressed to Steele. Pope gave him a place in the Dunciad, and Swift attacked him in his On Poetry, a rhapsody. Wright Pinkethman. Wright the reference is to Bartholomew Fair, which was held in Smithfield. Right here and throughout this dialogue Steele closely follows the conversation of Simo and Sosier in Terence's Andria, Acti Sinae. Write this and the two following speeches by Sir John Bevel are borrowed from Terence. Right in the old royal palace at Westminster, the House of Lords was formed out of the ancient Court of Requests, and the old painted chamber separated the Lords from the Commons. Steele has described, Spectator, No. 88, how servants, waiting for their masters at an alehouse at Westminster, debated upon public affairs, addressing each other by their employers' names. Right at the ridotto there was music, followed by dancing, the company passing, when the music was over, from the pit to the stage. Burney says that this Italian entertainment was first introduced into England in 1722, the year in which Steele produced The Conscious Lovers. Right Belsize House was the forerunner of Rainlog and Vauxhall. There were gardens, in which refreshments could be obtained, and hunting, races, etc. were provided to amuse the visitors, for whose protection 12 stout men, well armed, patrolled the road to London. A poetical satire, Belsize House, appeared in 1722, the year of this play. In the same year unlawful gaming at Belsize was forbidden, Pox Hampstead, 246-9. Right among the Blenheim papers is a fragment, in Steele's writing, of a dialogue between two servants, Pomino and Pythias, names taken, no doubt, from Terence's Eunuchus. The pair discuss the charm of the soft moments of servants in love, free from their usual restraints. Why should any man usurp more than his share of the atmosphere? The whole art of a serving man is to be here and there, and everywhere, unheard and unseen till you are wanted, and never absent when you are. This gives our masters and mistresses the free room and scope to do and act as they please. They are to make all the bustle, all the show. We are like convenient demons or apparitions about him, never to take up space or fill the air nor be heard of or seen, but when commanded. Pythias remarks how much she learns from Parmeno's conversation, and produces a little collation from the last night's supper which she has prepared for him. Parmeno eats the eggs, gauges, sings a song, and says kind things between whiles to Pythias. Right, Leah, throw glances. Right, see Griselda here. Right in the vision of Mirza, Spectator, no, 159, Addison pictured the happy islands which were the abode of good men after death. Does life appear miserable, that gives the opportunities of earning such a reward? Right in Terence, Glycerium comes to Athens with Chryses, a courtesan, her supposed sister, and Pamphilus makes her acquaintance at Chryses's house. Right, this character has no prototype in Terence's Andria. Right, these two operas, by G.B. Bononcini, were produced in 1722, with words by Rowley. In Griselda, Anastasia Robinson took the part of the heroine, and it is said that she thus completed her conquest of the Earl of Peterborough, who married her many years later. Right, see Carbonelli here. Right, there is nothing in Terence's Andria to correspond to the incidents in this act, and throughout the remainder of the play, there is no resemblance except the general idea of the story. Right, Steele had already described this scene in The Guardian for June 20, 1713. I happened the other day to pass by a gentleman's house, and saw the most flippant scene of low love that I have ever observed. The maid was rubbing the windows within sight of the house, and her humble servant the footman was so happy a man as to be employed in cleaning the same glass on the side towards the street. The wench began with the greatest severity of aspect imaginable, and breathing on the glass, followed it with a dry cloth. Her opposite observed her, and fetching a deep sigh, as if it were his last, with a very disconsolate air did the same on his side of the window. He still worked on and languished, until at last his fair one smiled, but covered herself, and spreading the napkin in her hand, concealed herself from her admirer, while he took pains, as it were, to work through all that intercepted their meeting. This pretty contest held for 5 large panes of glass, until at last the waggery was turned into an humorous way of breathing in each other's faces, and catching the impression. The gay creatures were thus loving and pleasing their imaginations with their nearness and distance, until the windows were so transparent that the beauty of the female made the manservant impatient of beholding it, and the whole house besides being abroad, he ran in, and they romped out of my sight. Right, Steele's monetary troubles made him personally familiar about the time he wrote this play with indentures tripartite, quadripartite, and otherwise, see Life of Steele, 1889, Roman II, 291, 299, etc. Right, this scene is of course entirely original. Right, patron of cockfighting. Right,